Hey, how you doing today? My name is Susie and I garden right on the edge of zones 5A and 6B. Today I'm going to show you how I overwinter some of my annuals so that I can use them again next year. It'll save me some money, and you too if you do it. So I'm going to show you what I do with Coleus, Geraniums, Dichondra, and Petunias, specifically Petunias. Okay, let's get to it. Okay, for this sweet potato, I'm going to cut some of it off. And if you want, you could cut a piece. This is not a real healthy piece, but you could cut one and try to root it by sticking it in water. But I'm going to cut this back so I can see where I'm going here. So I'm just going to dig this out right here. I'm being careful because sweet potato vines actually create or grow a sweet potato. So we don't want to damage it. Try to get in underneath it as much as I can. This particular one that I'm digging up is sweet Caroline, sweet potato vine from Proven Winners. It doesn't get as crazy growth on it as some of the other ones do. Evidently, it has some crazy root growth on it, though. Oh, I see it's in and out of this. Goodness. Well, that one did not grow. It did not grow a sweet potato on it. There's none there anywhere. But I have some more in the house, luckily. Let me dig down in there and make sure. Nope. Okay. All right, let's go in the house. So here are the sweet potatoes that I dug up yesterday. These came from two different plants. I don't know why the other one didn't produce any. But what I'm going to do with these is I'm going to store them in these are pine chips, like pine bedding. You can use a lot of different things. You can use peat moss if it's not soaking wet. We want these to stay dry. And I'm going to store them. There, I've just covered them up. And I'm just going to store them in a cool, dark place, like a bedroom closet upstairs that we don't heat in the wintertime. And then in the spring, I will pull them out and I will get them to sprout. And then those are called sweet potato slips. And then we will root those in water. After they grow a certain amount of length, we'll root those in water and then we'll have a new plant for next year. So that's how we overwinter sweet potato plants. Now, I also took some cuttings and put them in some water. So we'll see if they'll root from the water, but I don't know how they'll do all winter long because we're talking about 6 to 7 months that the stuff that I'm growing will have to stay in the house. Okay, next up, Coleus. Super, super, super easy. Oh yeah, here's one of the sweet potatoes that I cut. Nice, healthy thing, but we're just gonna stick it in the water. So Coleus are super easy. All you have to do is cut a stalk, completely remove any foliage that would be in the water. You don't want any leaves at all in the water. I remove a lot of the leaves, anything that's damaged, some really big leaves. That's broke. So we're going to take that off. And we're just going to start with something like that. And I'm just going to stick it in the water. And I have several different kinds here. And once they root, then I will pot them back up. Here's another one I've already prepared. And the reason that you don't want as many leaves and stuff on here is because the water will transpire from there, and we want the plant to, or the stalk, whatever, the cutting, to be able to put all its energy towards producing roots. That one's looking a little wilted. So here's another one. Isn't that pretty? It's so pretty. I just love Coleus. There's so many unique different ones. So, and then that's what I'm going to do. Make sure there's, like I said, make sure there's no leaves down here that goes in the water. Your water will get really nasty really quick. And then once you see some good root growth on them, then you can pot them up in some potting soil and take care of them like they were a house plant. They make great house plants. As far as light goes, so far the sweet potato vine and the Coleus, they need full sun when they're outside. So here's my trash can. You need to make sure that they have some really bright light in your house. This window here behind me is a south-facing window, so that's why I have a lot of plants here. So these plants are okay here because they like full sun. Some plants like a really bright light, but they don't want full sun on them. So the way I could fix that is to put a sheer curtain over front of this window, and that would block the sun enough that it won't burn the leaves. Okay, next up. Oh, let me show you these. These are just cuttings of variegated sage. And I'm going to treat these the same way as I am the Coleus. And I'm just got them cut, and I have them stuck in a glass jar till they root. Once they get a nice good set of roots on them, then I will pot them up. They will also need a lot of light. Okay, so Impatiens. They're very easy to root, so that's why I took cuttings of these, and they will root really well, and then we'll put them in soil. And then I'm going to show you right here what not to cut to bring inside. When you go to cut your Impatiens, you want to make sure and check for any kind of insect damage. If we take a look at these, sorry about the vehicle coming. These look like they might have spider mites. Let's see if we can see any. So, yeah, there's some, see the little white things there at the tip, towards the tip. So we don't want to take inside anything that's not in good health. So over here are some really nice looking leaves, and I already cut a few of those. Okay, up next, geraniums. Now, the one thing that I do before, when I bring in a plant, is I spray it down really, really well with soap and water. It's an insecticide, and I just go around and I make sure that I get every single part of the plant. Underneath, in the middle, really, really, really good. I'll spray some on the soil. I don't know how much to tell you soap. You can just barely say I use a blue soap, and you want a kind of a mild soap. But I just put enough in it to where it just kind of changes the water just a little bit. So anyhow, so that's what I'm doing all over this plant. Okay, now, this one was already potted. I'm going to leave it like that. I'm going to put it in a sunny window. I just pulled these right out of the pot that they were in. I'm going to clean it up. Just take off any leaves that look discolored. They're also going to probably go into a little bit of shock coming into the house because of the change in the temperature, because, you know, it's been cool outside, and then we're bringing it in and it's a little bit warm, but a little bit warmer than outside, unless you haven't turned your heat on yet. So doing the same thing there. And then I'm going to do the same thing. It's easier to do these when they're not in a pot already. I'm going to spray, 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 spray. I want to really get them drenched in case there's any spiders. Spiders are usually the big problem that I have. Spray, and I mean, I really get it so it's dripping really well. I'm gonna make sure I get down in there in the stems. Okay, pretty good. So now what we can do is we can put this in a paper bag and hang it upside down in a cool, dark place like a closet. You can do that and they will be just fine. As long as they stay dry, they will be just fine until spring. And then in spring, you bring them back out and pot them back up. So now mine, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna go ahead and pot mine up so that I can see them. They will slow down on their growth a little bit inside. And as far as fertilizing, you don't need to do it. If you had been doing it like maybe once a week outside, you don't need to do that maybe every 2 weeks, maybe 3. You know, depends on how much you want them to grow. Okay, now this is one thing that I recommend that you do right away when you bring plants inside. These are sticky traps. And this one I've bought big ones and cut them down, but you can get them in butterfly shape or flower shaped ones. And I stick this down in there. So fungus gnats, I know it's kind of gross, isn't it? They're in the soil, they're little larvae, and then the adults can lay up to 200 eggs in its lifespan, which is only about 10 days. So do that right away, get sticky traps so you can start catching them before you have a real bad problem on your hands. And last year I did, and I have a video that'll coming up in a week or 2 that tells you everything you need to know about fungus gnats and even more probably. So this is a super Petunia, Bordeaux specifically. And the first thing I'm gonna do is cut everything back. We don't need all this extra stuff. And I'm just gonna chop it, chop it, chop it. We're gonna get back here to the center of it. Just like this. Sorry about the cars. I live right on a state route and there's always traffic. So we're back to here. You see there's not much here at all. And of course we want to take off any flowers because they'll take too much energy. We want all the energy to just go back into the plant to leaf up a little bit. Okay, now what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna dig it out, and you can see where it's already, it's still in its original shape right there. We've had a drought this summer, so things didn't grow extremely large. Okay, so, hold on. So we're gonna take this inside now. I'm gonna get it potted up. Okay, what am I looking for here? I am looking for, yes, the Petunia. The Petunia. This looks really sad, doesn't it? It looks really sad. But it'll be okay. So I will probably, let me see, I might trim it up a little bit more. I'll get some of this other dead stuff off. But all I'm gonna do is pot it up. I don't need much in here. Here, let me turn this down so you can see me digging in the dirt. So I'm just gonna put, this is just a potting mix that has some sand in it and has some wood shavings in it. Just a regular potting mix is fine. That might be a little bit too much. We don't really need a bigger container. It'll grow just fine with that much. Actually, I think I'm gonna take that out. Yeah, because I want a little bit, when you repot something, you always want to try to give yourself some room for water. So, can you see? Yeah, like about, you know, an inch is nice, but in this case, we're only going to get a half an inch. So I'm just going to fill in the sides on this. And when I get all the soil in there, then I'm just going to water it in really well. And then I'm not going to mess with it very much. I will let it dry a little bit, and it'll start sprouting out. And as it does that, I'll keep an eye on it, and I may trim back even more. So there's something that looks dead. So basically that's it. And of course, petunias, full sun. So the same thing applies where they need a bright light window. Really bright light. They can handle the full sun. And if you don't have a south-facing window, you will probably see some slow growth or just general not very well growth at all. So I recommend getting some plant lights. And you don't have to buy expensive plant lights. You can get, if you want to use a 4-foot light fixture, you can just use regular lights from like Home Depot or Lowe's and use those. How about that? So these lights here, whoops, you can't see them, can you? These lights back here, these are LED strips that are up underneath here. There's about a 2-inch gap there in the front. And they have sticky tape on the back. And there was 4 of them. They're about this long, and it was about $20, I think. It might have been $25. I love them. So I'm going to get another set to put on the other side where there's matching shelves. So the Dichondra I brought in, this is Silver Falls Dichondra. Now I brought this in about a week ago, and I didn't pay much attention to it. So it's not doing so hot. It's, you know, it pretty much kind of looks like it's dead. So we can look at the top here, and you can see some nice green growth right here. So we are going to chop it off. Chop it off. So Dichondra is, I think, hardy to zone 7. Now, if you really want to try, we could probably try to root this. And Dichondra, see if I can find some here. These roots, these things root all along their stem. So, like this, if this stem right here gets really, once it gets long, I can stick it down in the soil and it'll grow roots. This stuff is really easy to propagate. It looks horrible right now. I think I'll clean it up some more. But I just brought it in. I'll put it, this one I'll put under the lights in the other room. But it could also go in a south-facing window. Ah, you kind of almost don't want to do that. It was so long and so, but this is one season's growth. So it'll grow just as quick. And this I will probably, I'll wet it down really well and I will feed it a little bit. Let's see, is there anything else? We did the Petunias, the Coleus, the Geraniums, the Dichondra, the Sage, the Impatiens. Okay, that's all I've brought in so far. I hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions, definitely let me know down in the bottom. And if you like this, please like my video. And I hope you have an awesome, awesome day. Bye.